Anne Wells leaves her idyllic small-town lifestyle behind her for New York City, where she aims to achieve her full potential and to live through new experiences. In New York City, she finds work and befriends Neely O'Hara and Jennifer North, two women varying in talent, striving to achieve their fullest potential and succeed as actors. However, with success and fame comes the pressures of alcoholism, sexism, adultery, and addiction to a new drug, dolls, which threatens to derail the careers of those dependent on it. This is Mark Robson's Valley of the Dolls, adapted from the novel of the same name by Jacqueline Susann. Dolls referring to the drug taken by the film's characters, while simultaneously being a colloquial term to describe attractive women during the 1960s. Valley of the Dolls has proven to be an enduring cult classic for fans of high camp and excess. Valley of the Dolls embraces schmaltzy melodrama to such an intensity, part soap drama, part musical, part affair-filled romance. It often feels like a parody of itself. Alongside the film's vibrant colour scheme during its more inventive montages, and its small fish in a big pond narrative, Valley of the Dolls has become adored for its stylistic kitsch. Writing for Vanity Fair, Donald Liebenson suggested that the appeal of Valley of the Dolls expanded beyond its 60s camp, writing that Valley of the Dolls is a 60s time capsule, but it's not an outdated relic like, say, Reefer Madness. The book and the movie were very prescient about sexual hypocrisy and how women are exploited in the entertainment industry, as well as how they can play a patriarchal system for their own gain. Outside of the camp aesthetic, Valley of the Dolls also serves as a revealing expose of the pressures and sacrifices expected of women in their struggle to succeed within the entertainment industry. Appetite suppressants, drug addiction, and emotional isolation are the consequences these women deal with in their attempts to reach success, reminiscent of real-world struggles of Hollywood icon Judy Garland. This system would only work to their benefit if they could play into the sexist pressures for their own goals, adhering to strict beauty standards and sleeping with the right or wrong men. While the film verges on absurd, it also expresses a genuine concern for the welfare of women exploited by the systematically sexist industry that expects women to adhere to intense beauty standards to be considered worthy of success. The film also hosts the message that people should learn that they are worth more and are deserving of more than their worst critics suggest. The trio of women at the centre of the film know this and are desperate to reach their truest worth. While Valley of the Dolls critically bombed on its release, it was financially successful and has inspired generations of filmmakers from John Waters to Lee Daniels. Its influence on the RuPaul Drag Race empire is also undeniable. Writing about the novel's success, its mixed reviews, and the film's inevitable creation with a mirrored reception to that of its source material, Donald Liebenson wrote later in the same article that Valley of the Dolls, released December 15, 1967, was based on Jacqueline Susann's 1966 bestseller, which promised to tear the lid off of Hollywood and Broadway. The book has sold more than 30 million copies and spent 28 weeks atop the New York Times bestseller list, lingering there for 65 weeks overall. Despite savage reviews, it was at one point the world's most popular novel, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, and the most scandalous. A department store in Chicago sold the book from underneath the counter, according to Lisa Bishop, manager of the Susann estate, and the stepdaughter to Susann's husband, Irving Mansfield. Susann died of breast cancer in 1974. Of course it would be made into a movie. It was the original 50 Shades of Grey, says writer and art gallery owner Bruce Bibby, aka gossip maven Ted Casablanca, a nom de plume inspired by a character in Dolls. It was a pop event. I don't think from the get-go it had any smell of good filmmaking. Actors were trying to get in the cast to be rich and famous, just like Jacqueline wrote. While it is widely acknowledged that the book and the film aren't conventionally good, it proves fascinating that Valley of the Dolls was successful amidst controversial tackiness. The interviewed gallery owner Bruce Bibby makes the observation that actors were desperate to be cast within the film in the same way the film's characters were desperate to be cast in the next big thing, demonstrating an authenticity in Jacqueline Susann's novel Daniel and Mark Robson's film, which proved the reality of the scandals Valley of the Dolls depicted. At its breeziest, silliest, and its most unintentionally hilarious, Valley of the Dolls embraces 1960s kitsch to such excess it can be overwhelming, yet also aesthetically pleasing. For example, the vibrant montage of Neely O'Hara preparing for an audition that will hopefully trigger a successful career. She exercises, readying herself for the morning, and poses in front of the camera, as the sequence is edited with fast cuts, sped up footage, split-screen composite shots, and background colour so bright it's intentionally garish. Montages like this feel closely reminiscent to the editing style found within Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night, or the film he directed for Woodfall Studios, The Knack and How to Get It, both films utilising a similarly bouncy editing style to a humorous, comedic effect. Sequences such as this demonstrates Valley of the Dolls at its campiest best, a style so distinctly 60s which has influenced films which followed in its footsteps. While Valley of the Dolls revels in the joyously flamboyant, it also aims to be an expose on the mistreatment and sexist pressures women face within show business. Scenes of addiction to the film's titular drug, dolls, an appetite suppressant which is taken by actresses to retain their slim bodies, and how it negatively impacts the performances and personal lives of the women reliant on it. For example, Neely O'Hara, during her comeback after sobering up within a sanatorium, becomes drunk and reliant on dolls once again, unable to prepare herself for a performance in a Broadway musical, dressed in the wrong costume for the wrong scene, having her appearance in the show replaced by an understudy. Neely O'Hara's reliance on dolls has led to her own fall from grace a second time, having pushed away personal friends and professional colleagues at the height of her dependency. While the performances within the film may rely on melodramatic hyperbole, Neely O'Hara, for example, cries out the names of her friends, the name of God, and the name of herself, as if her downfall were a theatrical crisis point in an actual Broadway musical. Valley of the Dolls holds relevancy by holding a mirror up to the ugliness of show business, and how the most successful performers can also be the most vulnerable. Its portrayal of a sexist industry ruled by chauvinistic men predates the Me Too movement, and the experiences of its central trio mirror the real-life, gone-too-soon tragedies of icons such as Janis Joplin and Amy Winehouse. Valley of the Dolls has a campy sheen on the surface, but underneath there is something much darker. Through the darkness, there is a life-affirming message that Valley of the Dolls holds. People should learn that they are worthy of more, and should aim to achieve it. Ann Wells knew this, as she left her small-town home of Lawrenceville for a career in New York City. She, like the audience, knew her full potential was waiting for her. This film serves as a cautionary tale, but there is also relatability in its characters. Characters so desperate to achieve more than their critics say they are capable of, that their desperation leads them down paths of addiction and downfall. Filmmaker Lee Daniels, speaking about his fondness for Valley of the Dolls within Donald Liebenson's article, as well as speaking about its universal appeal, stated that it's not bad, it's become a cult movie, it is loved. That means it has tapped into something beyond just being a thing to laugh at and with. It speaks to men and women because it's about what is screaming inside of us all. We are somebody. Valley of the Dolls doesn't aim to deter people from achieving their fullest potential, but serves as a warning. Don't let the success ever consume you. In conclusion, Mark Robson's adaptation of Jacqueline Susann's polarising Valley of the Dolls proves to be a mixed bag itself due to its inconsistent performances, campy sentimental aesthetic, and dialogue that feels so excessive it has become the stuff of often recited legend. However, Valley of the Dolls also possesses a surprising reflection into the pressures women are faced with within creative industries, a reflection that remains highly relevant today. The film's message of striving for something more in one's own life also adds a relatability that many viewers have felt connection with, especially the LGBTQ+ community, which has reclaimed Valley of the Dolls as a popular cult classic. While not a traditionally great film, Valley of the Dolls is difficult not to admire. A special thank you to my super Patreon supporters Gil, Konstantin Bombelli, and Victoria.